Hey guys, Tim here from BSMastering Mastering. Hope you're having a very great day. And today I'm covering a topic how to master with a focus on specific elements. So I will also show you some great mastering tricks that nobody will show you. So before we start, please remember, if you have a mix that you need mastered, request a quote at bsmastering.com and receive 50% of your first order. So, and now let's dive in. So it is surprising what a little bit of EQ can do to emphasize certain instruments during mastering. For instance, if we want to pull the kick drum out a little bit, usually most kick drums are centered around 80 Hz. So if we were to increase 80 a little bit, all of a sudden you will hear the kick jump out a little bit. Now I'm going to actually add a lot more EQ than you normally would during mastering, just so this is emphasized. But you will hear the kick increase pretty clearly. Let's have a listen.
Ever really think, did you ever really feel that this was something we'd both show? Was it something we could know? Tell me, little darling, what you don't find. Did you ever really think, did you ever really try to give me all of you to know? Or did you just let go? What do you want from me?
Now you can hear the kick jump a little bit, but so did the bass, and that's what will happen. One will affect the other because their frequencies are crossing over somewhat. The other thing that we will usually do, it is with Q. If you are using a parametric equalizer, we'll narrow the Q, and that allows you to actually center it on the frequencies a little bit. As a matter of fact, let's try that again, and we will narrow it even more and see if we can just zero in on the kick alone.
Tell me, pretty lady, now if you don't give, did you ever really think, did you ever really feel that this was something we'd both show? Was it something we could know? Tell me, little darling, what you don't find. Did you ever really think, did you ever really try to give me all of you to know? Or did you just let go? What do you want from me? Honey, I can't even breathe.
You can hear pretty well there, and again, usually when we are mixing, we are usually using a very wide Q, and that means something around 1 or 2 or even less than 1, which means the bandwidth is very wide, like you can see here. And usually the sound is good if we are using big chunks of boost when we are going to a very narrow Q. which is something around here, around 5.5. But for mastering, what we are going to do is zeroing in on just these certain frequencies, so it actually works okay. And we are not going to add a huge amount. Again, I'm emphasizing it here, but normally it might be just 1 dB or 2 at the very, very most. And here we are boosting it by 5. But you are able to hear very clearly what happens with the kick. One of the interesting things with EQ during mastering is, and this is what everybody kind of wants, it is largeness to the mix. Where this comes from is from 40 to 60 hertz. Now you might not hear this unless you have really good headphones or you are listening on fair large speakers, but this is where you get a lot of the power of the mix. And again, it's largeness, it's not necessarily bass, it's bottom, and you don't want to add too much of this because in fact you can make it very muddy. But I'm going to emphasize it a little bit here, a little bit more than normal anyway. So let's have a listen.
Tell me, pretty lady, now if you don't give, did you ever really think, did you ever really feel that this was something we'd both show? Was it something we could know? Tell me, little darling, what you don't find, did you ever really think, did you ever really try to give me all of you to know? Or did you just let go? What do you want from me? Honey, I can't even breathe till
Now that's far more than that I'd usually add, but it gives you an idea of the largeness to a mix that everybody wants. Now if we go back to trying to emphasize certain instruments, let's try to emphasize the bass. This is the bass guitar, so usually it is somewhere around 100 to 120 hertz, maybe even as high as 150. So let's have a listen. Let's go up to 120 or so and go from there. So let's have a listen.
Ever really think, did you ever really feel that this was something we'd both show? Was it something we could know? Tell me, little darling, what you don't find, did you ever really think, did you ever really try to give me all of you to know? Or did you just let go? What do you want from me? Honey, I can't even breathe. Tell me if I found what you can't see, what you come.
Now you can hear that what we are doing is we are pulling that out just a little bit, the bass guitar frequencies, and if it is mixed well don't normally center on one frequency, around 120. They go fairly low, and it may go as low as 60, and it may go as high on the low end anyway is 200 hertz or so. And then it'll pick it up again at about 1K. And 1K will do a couple of things that will bring out the snap in the bass, and it will give you a little bit of definition. It will also bring out the definition of the kick by allowing you to hear the beta. This is the actual beta against the head. Let's have a listen this 1K.
Ever really feel that this was something we'd both show? Was it something we could know? Tell me, little darling, what you don't find. Did you ever really think, did you ever really try to give me all of you to know? Or did you just let go? What do you want from me? Honey, I can't even breathe. Tell me if I found what you can't see. Would you come back to?
Now you can hear the beta of the kick a lot better than the bass. The bass is recorded very well, so it already has a lot of high end. But if you don't have high end on a bass, this is kind of where you get it, and it's somewhere around 1K, maybe a little higher, maybe a little lower, somewhere 800 hertz works on the bass, sometimes 1.2 K works. It just depends on the instruments and the mix. The next place we are going to go is the snare, and the snare is usually between 2K and maybe 3K, maybe a little higher on a certain high pitched snare drums, but we can bring it out of the mix pretty well. So let's have a listen this 2.5K area.
Ever really think, did you ever really feel that this was something we'd both show? Was it something we could know? Tell me, little darling, what you don't find. Did you ever really think, did you ever really try to give me all of you to know? Or did you just let go? What do you want from me? Honey, I can't.
Now you can hear just a little bit more of the snap than you heard before. One of the problems here is if you add too much, you are also affecting the vocal, and you may be adding more of the guitars than you'd like as well. So you have to be careful on this, and once again, the best thing is to fine-tune your cue and see if you can zero in exactly on that snare hit. It takes a little bit waste of time, but that's the way to do. The next thing we usually want to do is bring up the vocal a little bit more, and the vocal resides somewhere between 4 and 6K. At least the parts that we want to bring it out in front of the mix a little bit. Now, instead of having a shelf in EQ, which is going to affect everything in this case from 6K to about 20K, what we want to do is have a peak in EQ so we can use the fine tuning of the Q settings. So let's have a listen.
Did you ever really feel that this was something we'd both show? Was it something we could know? Tell me, little darling, what you don't find. Did you ever really think, did you ever really try to give me all of you to know? Or did you just let go? What do you want from me? Honey, I can't even breathe. Tell me if I found what you can't see, would you come back to me?
Now we brought them out a little bit more in front of the mix than it was before. And again, what happens here is not only you affect the vocal, but you affect everything else that's around it frequency-wise. So one of the things that happens here is the tambourine, which is also centered in those vocal frequencies. The tambourine jumps out a little as well. If you can handle it, that's going to work. But sometimes, again, you can only do so much because you are only affecting the finished mix, and there's not a lot that you can do about the overall levels of the individual instruments unless you actually do go back to the mix. But you can bring a little bit out of here and a little out of there, but usually if you have to add too much, it's no good. So the real trick is to not to add too much in any one area, because it usually upsets the entire frequency balance of the song. So if you need to add too much EQ to try to compensate for the mix balance, you'd better off to send the song back to have it remixed. So that's about it for today. So if you like my videos, please subscribe and hit the notification bell to support my channel. I would very much appreciate. So have a very nice day, and see you next time.